the Something Else Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm not sure what number this is, 5 or 6. This one's going to be a little bit different. It's more of a serious talk today. With everything that's going on in the world, especially in Britain, and just generally with things going on in personal life, I've noticed within myself that my mental health isn't as strong as it was. I think when the first part of the pandemic started, which was March last year, I remember it quite clearly. It was on the 13th, I want to say. It shows how much I remember. It was a Monday, and I was at work, and we was going to have a staff meeting, and my manager basically pulled us all in for what was supposed to be a staff meeting, but it was really just kind of an update on what we was going to do because of everything that was happening. And basically I was furloughed for 4 months, and it was really tough. My wife was on furlough too. She was working from home, but it was really difficult because you're trying to kind of like get to grips with how you've got to live life, as well as entertain and look after a little 2-year-old. And then, at that time, it wasn't even 2, was he? No, he was we was coming up to it. And it was just really difficult because you couldn't see family or anything really. And it was just really tough. And I think as time's gone on, it just chips at you, it just cuts you down a wee bit. And I think it was going into lockdown 3 as it is, that I realised just how much of a beating my mental state took. And it was, I don't suffer with anxiety. My own worst enemy is myself. And I think it was this third lockdown, with everything else that's going on, really kind of chipped at me. So really, I just wanted to talk with you guys about, obviously myself, my wife's going to chip in too, and just really talk about how, we shouldn't be scared to talk. I mean, especially coming from me. I mean, anyone that knows me I'm kind of like a bottle, really. I just bottle everything up. I don't really talk about anything. I think that just stems from when I was little, really. I was the runt of the litter, really. I mean, constantly in and out of hospital. I'm the youngest of 5. But I was always in and out of hospital, the doctors. I've had more 18th century diseases than they did. So it's like, I think I've always had to put that front up to say I'm strong, nothing affects me. But, it was just a weird one. I mean, I won't get into details, it's not in my place to talk about other people's things. But I think that the first part of the lockdown, we didn't know what was going on, so it was, you're just trying to grasp with this current way of living. So, you had to mask up. There was no shops open apart from essential shops. You had to wait outside. I'm asthmatic. I'm not severely asthmatic, but I am an asthma warrior. So it's like wearing masks, especially with the weather change we've had, really hurts because you're covering your face up. You're breathing in moist air, let's be honest. And, that triggers it for me. And it was like, if you took your mask off to breathe, people looked at you as if you're some sort of criminal. And you're like, wait a minute, I can show you my healthcare plan, which I've done, and people still give you the look of, you're a dick sort of thing. And it was a case for me where it was like, fine, I'll wear it to prove a point. Because there was a lot of people that weren't wearing masks. But then, on top of that, about 8 years ago, I had pleurisy. And I still think I've got some vulnerabilities from it. I don't want to use that word too much, but I do. I think I've got scar tissue. The doctor reckons it too. Just because every now and then, if I lie on my left side too much, which is where I had it, it hurts. It feels like someone stabbed me in the lung. Not that I would know what that feels like. But I still have issues from having that. And I think that's when the real, really, really big mental attack happened. I was mentally drained from 4 months of being in the house and, just trying to think of new things to do, keep myself occupied. Because it was just tough. And then I think as the first lockdown finished, I was back at work and I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was okay, I guess. I think it's only this third lockdown that happened where I worked, there was more cases of people catching COVID. And then my bubbles, my circles, whatever you want to call them, they all started to get ruptured. Family members were being diagnosed with terminal illnesses. And that was like the catalyst, really. And then in the third lockdown, which we're in now, as you know, at the time of this recording, it was a case of you look at things in a different aspect. Like, I won't name her, but my one sister, she caught it, and she's relatively healthy. She doesn't really drink or do drugs, not that I know of. And if she does, she doesn't share them. And it was a case for me where it was to see her kind of just, I don't know, just suffer from it in the way she did. It was kind of like, Christ, if I get that, I'm going to really hurt. I know it affects people differently. But it was really weird then to see the people with the illnesses, the terminal illnesses, get it as well. And you think, Christ almighty. And you start to see that this armour you've built up isn't actually that strong. It's like when you get those really expensive vases and you think, whoa, you know, that's some, I don't know, ridiculously expensive vase and it turns out to be paper mache. That's what my armour is. It's not this, you know, piece of steel I thought it was. It's actually paper mache. And it's like, no matter how much you layer it, it's still broken on the previous side. And it was like, I mean, this podcast is going to be all over the shop, I'll be honest. But I started noticing that I was having these weird, like, panics about things. Like, at work, I had to ring someone, and I panicked that someone who's used the phone previous, you know, that they've breathed on it, essentially, and it freaked me out. So I had, like, this mini kind of anxiety attack about not even answering, but to dial on a phone. Little things like, I mean, as I said before, I don't know, you'd have to let me know if I've mentioned this, but I work with children. I know the age range I work with, you can pick up your glass, it's fine. Just don't slurp. No, she slurps. But it was one of them ones where the age range I work with, they're not particularly vulnerable. Like, if you look at the rates of infection and the fatalities, it's minute. But it's not the fact that I could catch it from them. It's I'm handling their clothes, their bags, their, you know, toys if they bring it in. And that's where, for me, the virus is. It lingers on things. And now with this new mutation, it really is scary. And I think that's, like, with everything going on, my wife's going to talk in a minute because I've been talking for about 4 hours. But it's like, at the start of it, she was suffering really bad with anxiety. And I've never really dealt with it, so I didn't really... I've never had to deal with it. So to see someone else go through it, you can only try and do stuff. But I'll let you take over. It means that I've waffled on a bit, going back and forth. But just talk about... I mean, for someone like me who's never had it, just talk about... not so much the triggers, what it feels like.
Well, basically, it's obviously different for a lot of people. But with me, I feel like if I have an anxiety attack, a big one, it's that I'm not in control of my own body. It's almost like an out of body experience for me.
It's like you're watching in on your body doing something.
Kind of, yeah. It's like it's almost like a shutdown for me. I was like, no, don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. Can't do it. In my head, it's I cannot do it. I can, but in my head, it's like, no, what are you doing? No, you can't do that. And then like the physical symptoms come out of that. So, you know, like you can start shaking and you start, you know, feeling very. With me, it's feeling very sick, and you know, it's just like a, you know, like I say, it's like, almost like a shutdown.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do anything. I end up crying half the time anyway, and it's just really nasty. It's really like. I think with me, where it started is when I lost my nan. And then it was like a tsunami of okay, look, so I've lost my nan, and now this COVID thing's happening. What's COVID? Nobody knows what it is. And it was the unknown all the time. I can't see my family anymore. I've just lost somebody. Why am I not being able to see my family? You know, and then like I think I wasn't well throughout the summer, and like the anxiety made it worse because like, in my head it's like, well, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get COVID. I didn't get it. Well, I haven't got it. Touch wood, you know. And but in my head it was like, well, you are going to get it. You're going to end up in hospital, or you're going to pass it on to Ben or my son, or you know, you're going to get it. And like I always explain to Ben, it's like I have two parts of my brain, the logical side and the rational and the irrational side. So it's like the rational side's going, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. And then my other rational side, it's like, well, yes, you can. What's stopping you? And I think with me, I ended up going through therapy for it, and I thought it was really helpful, really, really helpful. You know, the stuff they give you to do.
Well, you introduced that Headspace thing, didn't you? That app.
Yeah, so I started doing the Headspace thing.
This is in no way an endorsement or anything.
No, but it was. I found that quite useful. Didn't quite understand it at the start. I was a bit dubious about it, a bit like, oh, it's not going to work and everything. But with that and with therapy, you know, I was speaking to the therapist about it, and they're like, it's really good for you just to get a bit of space and a bit of, you know, it takes 10 minutes a day, if that, just to sit down and breathe, essentially. And you're not necessarily, like, you think about everything, but it's like, okay, well, let's think about it in one part of your day instead of thinking about it for the whole of your day and going, okay, oh, I'm panicking. Well, why are you panic? You have to stop and think, what are you doing? And then since my therapy finished, and I feel a lot better for it, and I've carried on with the Headspace stuff. Not every day, but, you know, when I feel like I need to. And then I use that as a guide, a help, just to get a bit of, I don't know, like a bit of space back in your head.
Yeah. It's like, for me, like I said, I don't normally suffer with anxiety. Not that I know of. I mean, you've known me for freaking how many years now? How long have we been together?
Ooh.
2009. Oh, this is where I know dates.
What were they?
We're in 21.
So it'll be 12 years.
Jesus.
Next year. This year.
Yeah, June.
This year.
Well, that shows how much we know. But it's like, I've always battled myself with my own mind. I never talk about how I feel just because I never want to, because it's mine to deal with. And, I mean, I get angry a lot just because I guess it's my way of, you can sneeze if you want.
It's stuck.
Just face away from the microphone.
It's stuck. Carry on.
But, it was one of them ones where, like you said, it was kind of, for me, it was like, I was watching, I used that phone scenario when I had to call someone at work, and I genuinely was terrified of, I picked up the phone and froze, and it was like, it was like I was watching myself sit in the chair at the desk with the phone in my hand, and I guess it was similar to you. It's like, in my head, it's a phone call. I need to make the phone.
Yeah.
I need to make the call. But then the other side was, mate, you can catch COVID from this.
Yeah.
And it was really weird. And I think that's what battled me. But it still battles me now with this lockdown, because it's like, schools are open for like the vulnerable and for the key workers. And I'm very supportive of nurseries staying open. I'm very supportive of schools to stay open, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But then in the first lockdown, obviously we didn't know much around it. What we did know was it was very infectious and very fatal. But in our immediate circle, I'd say, there was no cases.
No.
We knew it was that typical, My friends, cousins,
Yeah.
brothers, sisters-in-laws, dog.
Yeah, friends
owner.
of friends of friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were the ones that were getting it, so it didn't really affect us. And at work, there was nothing. Even when we came back after the first one, there was nothing.
No.
But it seems like between the second one and the third one, I know more and more people that have had it, including, when work colleagues or I'm going to say clientele that I work with. And then friends, families have passed away, and you're like, well, family members. And you think, Christ, it's getting closer and closer. And then for my immediate family to get it,
Yeah.
that was kind of like, whoa. Because this was over the Christmas period when we was allowed to have that week of, or whatever it was, of seeing people. And it was just for my own mentality. I needed to see them. You know, I wore the mask. I was hand gelling like, some crazy man. But I found that was just like, coming back to work, it really made me think, am I doing the right thing? We've got a little boy, and I was like, if I end up in hospital, what use am I? And it's forever in my head, like, this is what I've been telling everyone. I want to be at work. I need normality. I need my routine back. But then at the same time, I'm like, I could catch it.
Yeah.
I haven't caught it yet, but I could. And I guess it's that rational and irrational side.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it comes back to the rational, irrational side.
Exactly. And it's, I talk to loads of people and they say, well, you need to do what's right for you. Health comes first. I'm like, that's true. But I'm protecting myself. I'm wearing a mask. Like I said, I'm hand gelling. But then it's a case of if I went on furlough, if I, what was it, self-shield or whatever you want to call it, that's going to impact me in a different way. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, if I go off, because I'm classed as a key worker, if I go off for, a week, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Ted's going to have to stay with us.
Yeah.
And if I put him in, it's not really fair.
Yeah, because the thing is, if we put him in and, he's exposed to the same group of people that you would be exposed to anyway, so what's the point?
And this is where it comes back to the mentality side of it for me. I'm very much a workhorse. I would do what I need to do. And, everyone, it's not just the sector I work in, but loads of sectors are affected. Everyone's affected differently. Yeah. And I think I found, as the end of last year, obviously all about the bad news after bad news after bad news. Yeah. Just for this start of the year to start with bad news. Yeah. And it's like, it's that classic case of how many, I use Buckaroo. How many objects can he get on his back before he kicks? Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think I'm just going to be stereotypical and upset a lot of people. But men don't talk. It's a fact. Even, the most emotionalist of men will never talk. No. And I find now, I was talking to I won't even say clientele. I was talking to a parent at the school I work with, the nursery rather. And she I'd say nurse? I'm going to go with nurse. Mm-hmm. Potentially a doctor. Forgive me if you ever listen to this, but I will not name you. We was talking, and this mother was, kind of... We get on really well, I'll say. And I was just explaining everything that had happened at the end of last year and then this year. And she just kind of laid it all out in front of me, like, this is what you're dealing with. And it was like she'd just undone that cap. Yeah. And it was the weirdest thing, because I went back to my room where I work and I had to go in the bathroom just to cool off, because, because she undone that metaphorical cap, all the steam had come out, and I just wasn't sure what to do. I was in there for a good 5 minutes. I didn't know if I was going to cry, scream, shout, laugh. It was like Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker. I just didn't know what was going to happen. And I felt really vulnerable, because it was like I'd kind of let go a little bit. Yeah. Like I'd spoke, and then at the same time I felt good because I'd spoke.
It's the thing though, like when, like you said, men in general don't talk. And when you do talk, I bottle things up awfully, and like you said, when you talk to somebody, it always makes you feel better, even if it's just the little things you talk about.
Yeah.
It's not passing the burden on to that person. It's, you know, you're sharing that experience, and that sometimes they'll go, I can't help you, or you know, what you're saying is, we can actually help you, and this is how we're going to help you, and you know, it's like I know when you're not feeling mentally well, because you completely change.
Yeah.
And you know, and I always ask you, are you okay? And sometimes you're like, yeah, I'm fine, and then sometimes it just comes out of you. And it will eventually come out.
Oh, yeah. I think, like I said, it falls back from, I guess, just being the littlest one of 5. You know, always in and out of hospital and doctors. And then having 4 sisters, you kind of put on a bluff that you find, because you don't want them to see weakness. Not in the sense of you're a weak person, but you want to be strong for them. You know what I mean? It's like when your nan passed away, it was very reminiscent to my nan and everything, and it just kind of brought back memories, you know what I mean? And you're trying to be strong on that aspect.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. That's what I was saying before. It's very much like Shrek and his onions. You know what I mean?
Layers.
It's exactly, but it's not layers of emotion. It's layers of armor.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's paper mache.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how many layers you put on it, it's still paper mache.
It's like, going back to your vase thing, like if you break a vase and you super glue it back together, you're always going to see that crack there. It's always going to be a weak spot, but it's the way you deal with that weak spot. I mean,
oh, definitely.
I mean, in the last 2-3 years, we've lost quite a few people. You know, and every time, so I can't watch that TV show that Ted watches.
Was it Corey Carson?
Corey Carson.
Oh, yeah.
With one episode about her grandparents when they
leaving treasure.
and treasure hunts for it. It just breaks my heart. And I'm like, oh my god.
Well, that's like me and Coco.
Oh my god.
If you've ever watched that film and not cried, my god, you need to open that cap.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, we're getting off a bit of track here, but it was, excuse me, it's one of them ones. I think it's my thing is acceptance. Not that I need to be accepted into something, because I couldn't care less. I mean, I've learnt the hard way to just kind of not ignore things, but if stuff don't get done, it doesn't get done. But I think for me, it's accepting myself, in the sense of, yes, right now I'm torn between my rational thoughts, which is just get on with it, you know, just keep yourself safe. Then my irrational side, which is
panic.
Exactly, which is, you know, you could catch it. I mean, I'm panicking about work, but I could catch it going to the shops.
Yeah, you could.
I had to go and fill up my car the other day. Someone could have coughed on that nozzle or something. Not that anyone puts the nozzle near their mouth, and if they do, they've watched Zoolander.
Although, I must say, the petrol station that we go to, I went there the other day, and I was like, oh, it's the cleanest I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I mean, they do look after it. I will give them that. But I think it's like, I know a lot of my mates, you know, I don't know whether it's just that alpha side, you know, but it is very much, oh, now I'm fine, I'll get through it, blah, blah, blah. But then, like, my best mate, I know when he's not feeling the best. I won't name him, Robert. But I know when he's not feeling the best, and I won't push him, because I know I don't want to be pushed when I'm feeling a bit off.
Yeah.
And I think it's, with what's happened in the last, 10 months? 9-10 months? It has changed the world, and I think it's a case of now more than ever, we need to talk.
Definitely.
Whether it's you talk to your friends, your parents, a complete stranger in the street who thinks you might be harassing them to sign a petition. Talk to them. And I mean, it's easier said than done. I sound like a hypocrite because I find it difficult to talk. But I find doing this, talking to people at work, to yourself, I find it's...
You have become a lot better about it.
I might be repeating myself with the same thing, but at the same time, I'm still venting that concern. And even if it is the same thing, it shows us how relevant that is currently to you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm genuinely terrified now of catching COVID.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't believe in it, but in the end of the day, it's flu. It's a virus.
Yeah.
But it attacks your respiratory system. I don't have the strongest. By no means I have the weakest. but I do suffer with it for the past week. Like I said, I've potential scar tissue, I don't know, but my left side has been in agony. I've not been able to stand up. Like, I've got very good posture, but I've not been able to stand up like broad like I normally do. Breathing's been affected, and I think part of that was caused by anxiety as well as actual physical pain.
Yeah.
And it's a case of, in my head I've got to, I know it sounds stupid and daft, but I've got to accept the fact that I can catch COVID just like I can catch a cold.
Yeah.
It's one of them ones. It's a harsh reality.
I think it's one of those. I mean, we could have already had it, and we don't.
Exactly.
But if we do catch it, then we deal with it at that point in time. I mean, we've had family members that have all suffered from it completely differently. And like you said, one family member's very fit and healthy and really suffered, whereas others are not so fit and healthy and not really
completely fine.
Yeah, they're completely fine, and you're like, okay. So it's just one of them. If we catch it, we catch it.
I think the one thing I've noticed, it's like, because I like doing these podcasts, I'm going to do a really, really cheesy thing, and I'm just going to promote myself right now. But I do the podcast, I do streams, I do a little bit on YouTube and everything, and I do it for like, not my own kind of self-need, but I do it because I enjoy it. And I find it's quite a nice thing to kind of take your mind off. Just like with my music, I love making music. Again, I'm not going to do a self-plug, but that sounds disgusting. But I'm not going to promote myself on that aspect.
It's very good.
But I only paid her a cuddle for that. But it's one of them ones where I think, especially with how it's been, I've been very preoccupied with work itself, with COVID, and you forget the small details, the finer things in life. I'm going to just self-promote again because I'm so great. But you asked me to make a song just for when you're feeling a bit down.
Yeah.
And initially I was just going to do an instrumental thing, and I don't know why. It must be the roots from what my dad embedded in my brain at an early age for music. But I've got my favourite guitar is not an expensive one. It's a beautiful guitar. Me and my dad have worked on it for years, and I will most likely be working on it again because I like to tinker with it. But every time I pick up this guitar, Sam knows when I'm happy or if I'm venting, because I always go to that guitar. And it's a case of I picked it up and I started doing this reggae rhythm. Now, if anyone knows me, I listen to very loud, bloody music, or pirates. I listen to pirates.
Yeah.
Yar.
What was that other one? Fantasy
Metal Glory Hammer. It's not a porno. It possibly is, actually. Anyway, it was a case of I started making this rhythm, and next thing you know, I was taken away from how I felt. I was taken away from the negative things that were bringing me down, and I was so focused on making this song. And it went from being an instrumental to some kind of reggae rhythm to like an old 50s kind of rock and roll sound, wasn't it? And it was very different to what I normally do. And I think it was making the song for yourself, because was it not long after I made that metal track?
Yeah,
which was ironically aimed at COVID-19. And then, I mean, this is going to be something, if you're listening, mate, we went through a whole load of stuff right now. And Samuel, making that track with you was probably one of the most highlighted musical things of my musical life. Like I said, we went through hell when Nan passed away. Families have been torn apart. Some bridges can be built, some bridges will remain broken. But me and Samuel, he's an excellent producer. His vocals are like the warmth of his generation, I guess. And we always said we'll work on a track, and for 3 years now since my nan passed away. He passed away on your birthday, didn't she?
Yes.
Stubborn woman. And we worked on this track, and one of the podcasts I did before was about it was the first one I did, actually, wasn't it? The children's cartoon theories.
Yeah.
And he was basically asking if I could do some vocals, and I think he mentioned doing one about that. So I wrote some vocals, sent him my vocals, and he's made a track. And it's bloody brilliant. And again, it was something like that completely took away the anxiety.
Yeah.
Because it kind of brought the past back where it was them good times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To quote Led Zeppelin, you have good times, bad times, everyone has their share. And it was doing something like that really made me see the clarity in that there's more than what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I cope with stress in different ways, mostly through music.
Yeah.
And it was, like you said, I made them 3 songs and like I was just in a whole new different world.
Yeah.
And then when they
Yeah,
introduced... Yeah, and I felt epic. I didn't feel weird again. But then when Lockdown 3 got announced, I went from being on cloud 9 to like minus 10 below.
Yeah.
And it was horrible. And like I said, it's... For me, I've talking has helped. You know, I think it got to a point where even at work, people noticed that I wasn't me. Like, if you ever see me at work, I'm the clown. You know what I mean? I'm the daft one, the exuberant one, the one that says silly things. And then all of a sudden I was like a recluse. And I can see it, so if I can see it, I know everyone else can see it. And it was... I think really what this whole podcast is getting at, it's not just me, obviously, or my wife, it's everyone else. If you're feeling, you know, it's too much, talk.
Yeah, get some help.
Yeah,
Talk.
I mean, there's loads out there. The NHS is a good one. Yes, they're currently being overrun and overworked, and you know, we'll support them in any way we can. But like I said,
charities will help you
exactly,
as well.
there are loads.
There's Mind, I think, it's one.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, don't feel that you've become a burden. Don't feel that, you know, you're not important, because in the end of the day, you're breathing air. That's important. You're still with us, you know what I mean? So I'd say if you're feeling down, even if you just want to vent, shout or anything, you know, do it to someone. There's always an ear to be, you know, lent.
Someone's always going to listen.
Exactly. I mean, I love listening. I like to help. And I think it's one of them ones where I need to now follow my own kind of advices. And, excuse me, it's one of them ones where some stuff I do is like I write journals, and generally what I do is I write down and then I reflect on it.
Yeah.
So I can isolate what the factor was. And there's a relevant theme, to be fair. Curse my brumminess. And it's a case of you've got to try and figure out how can you... For me, this is how you can get that factor out.
Yeah.
And I think coming from a last job, I learned the hard way, you know, it's... No matter how much you put in, there'll always be something that's going to be like, nope. It's going to knock you down. And for me, it was accepting that, and then it was to move on from it. Mm-hmm. So now I do what I've got to do, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I killed that factor, and it no longer bothers me. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, I mean, I'm going off track here, but it's... Even if you just use an app, talk to a friend, you need to get it off your chest, because there's only so long that you'll have to carry whatever's weighing you down, essentially. And you're either going to implode or explode.
Yeah. The thing is, at the end of the day, you've got one life, you've got to live it. At the moment, we obviously can't go out and live it, but you have to look after the life that you've got, because, you know, this COVID thing will end one day, and then we can go back out and we can do whatever we want to do. But until that point, we've got to look after ourselves. We've
Exactly.
just got to. Because, well, even past COVID and everything, you know, taking 10 minutes out of your day just to reflect, go over and go, well, what's bothered me today? Why is that? Well, that shouldn't bother me. Let's put it away.
I think the one thing that I really, really have learned since the first lockdown is it's okay if you want time away.
Yeah.
It's okay to have your time.
Yeah.
Like, if you just need to have 5 minutes sitting in the bathroom playing a game on your phone. Yeah. Do it. Mm-hmm. If you
know, a lot of people have taken up running and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, if it gets too much, you go out for a run. Go and have a walk.
The one thing I was really enjoying before it got bloody closed was going to the gym.
Yeah, exercise is very good for you.
I mean, that releases so many different endorphins and chemical reactions within the body. It really does change your whole frame of mind. And I think being stuck, especially if you're currently on furlough or you're out of work at the moment, it is tough. You know, I wasn't working for 4 months and it played a massive toll on me.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, spending that much time with Ted was amazing. Yes, he drove me up the wall. But before, I wasn't having that time. I'd see him in the morning to drop him off at nursery, and I'd see him when he went bed.
Yeah.
Then I'd have the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd repeat the same 5 days for the next 2. So it's just, I guess it's advice I could give, like from what I've learned from my own experiences is talk.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be face to face. It could be over the phone. It could be text, WhatsApp, you name it.
Yeah, just message someone. You alright? How are you doing?
Exactly. Someone will listen. If you want to talk to me or my wife, we have the email address. It's something I can't remember. Something else podcast20@gmail.com. Yes, I remembered it. You know, talk. Always give yourself time. Because you need time out.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I do not do. I mean, lately I've been sleeping a lot because I guess I'm just making myself ill.
Yeah.
And it's only when you self-reflect that you see that. Like, I haven't slept that much in ages. I used to have naps because I was knackered, but now I'm sleeping for the wrong reasons. And just remember, there's, you know, it's the cliche thing, and I do believe it, there's always a silver lining.
Yeah.
You know, it's always greener on the other side. And it's that mental state. If you can change how you think, it will reflect.
Yeah.
Evidently, for me, making those 3 songs, and especially the one with my cousin, that's built a bond that we used to have that disappeared for 3 years. And it's, like I said, it's the little things that will keep you going. I've said this to you many times. The bad things will always outweigh the good because they're bad.
Yeah.
Negative is always higher, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone roots for the bad guy. It's life.
Yeah.
The good guy's always that little bit behind. But if you can get that light, if you can get, you know, something to focus on, that drive, I think I spoke about that before, you're a winner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't intentionally want this one to be as long as it is. But I said to Sam before we did this one, I've not planned anything for this. It's just going to be basically just off the top of our heads.
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight the fact that we all have things that are going to beat us. We all have demons. We all have stresses. But it's just to know that you're not alone. Like I said, I never had anxiety, and speaking to Sam about hers, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm kind of going through right now. So just remember, you're not alone.
No. There's always someone there.
Exactly. You've got friends, you've got family, you've got services.
Get the help you need.
Loads. Find something to boost that positivity, to boost that endorphin, to keep you going, and you'll be fine. It'll take time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen during the day. It's perseverance. It's accepting that there is something bothering you, or there's something not right, and it's how you can adjust and make it right for you. And that's the kind of track I'm going on right now. It's the one I'm walking, and it's going okay. You know, it's tough. It's not nice. You will have moments when you drop. Mm-hmm. But as Sam does, she gets the app. She has 10 minutes. I've done the apps too. I mean, my brain always goes crazy. Like, all it takes is for my head, or my ears rather, to hear one thing, and I'm like, ooh, that's different. You know what I mean? And like, because my brain just doesn't switch off. And that doesn't help me. So I'm learning to switch my brain off.
Yeah.
Whether it's listening to music before I go to bed, using that Headspace app.
Yeah.
Reading a book. I've started to read.
You have?
When I say started to read, I'm learning to read. And it's, I mean, you can probably tell now at the start of this podcast, I was a bit somber. But because I'm talking, ironically, it's a podcast, I feel better. And I think that's what I'm trying to get to everyone right now. I can't stress the importance, but I can't get that point across. If you talk, you will feel better.
Yeah.
You will open that cap to the bottle you've kept closed, and shaken up for so long to get that steam out, the fizz, you'll be fine. So on that note, we will end this podcast. And like I said, if you want to talk, if you want to email in, do it. I'm on, or whatever something else is. We're everywhere. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. I don't know why I said it like that. YouTube. Sound like Ted now. Toot toot.
Toot toot.
For some reason, Ted keeps saying broccoli.
Even in his sleep.
Even in
It's
his
weird.
sleep. I don't know why he says broccoli, but he likes it. Maybe that's his way of coping.
The thing is, I gave him broccoli last night and he didn't eat it. I was like,
I know, yeah. But anyway, again, it's one of those ones. So I'm going to say au revoir, as Ted likes to say. I'm going to say I love you lots, as my little boy would say. And until the next time, we'll see you soon. Bye.
bye.